Song Shishing leaned against the corner, dying that I end my previous life. I passed by carrying a basket of hot tofu and found him. I will take him home and do everything I can to buy him medicine for his injuries. He will leave in 6 months. But I will leave behind a jade pendant and a sentence that I will come back and marry you. I just saved him and didn't want his reward. I am ordinary and knowing that I cannot climb high, so I have never thought about these things, but his words are still imprinted in my heart. Growing in memories with emotions. On the night he left, a thief broke into my house and killed my parents. I only managed to escape by hiding in a narrow chimney. The official report failed, and from that day on, Kingdom became chaotic. In the following 3 years, there were even more scattered cases of hunger and death. I wander around like a wandering soul. Later, I finally found out about his whereabouts. I thought he would be as happy as me, but I didn't expect him to just give me a blank glance and have someone arrange for me to go to the military tent to rest. Later on, I became a cook in the military, and because of this, I had the opportunity to cook for him and deliver some night snacks.
In those days, I always hoped that when he was in the army, I could bring him a bowl of night snacks. On quiet nights, he was waiting to eat the food I had cooked, and my eyes were filled with his appearance. It's both happiness and satisfaction. But on that day, the left army won a great victory over the entire army and drank to celebrate. But I was dragged into the military tent by his deputy using the strength of the drink and insulted. I asked him for help, but he just held his glass and looked at me expressionless. After dawn, the deputy apologized to him and he also forgave him, and I left the military camp dragging my broken body, just wanting to return to the capital and bury my bones by my parents' side.
It wasn't until then that I understood that this encounter, from accidental to inevitable, was all about me doing watching. All he has paid is the words he said before leaving, wait for me to come back and marry you. It's just a sentence, not a sentiment. It's me thinking too much. He is still the moon in the sky, and there is a cloud and mud difference between him and me. But on the day I was about to die, he found me. At that time, he had already won the throne and proclaimed himself emperor. He said in front of his civil and military officials that I had saved him, and he also promised to marry me. The Holy One is truly a benevolent and righteous ruler. Even the tofu girl is grateful for his kindness and keeps her promise. The courtiers said so. I once asked him, why didn't you save me that night? Why did you make me the queen even though you were not emotionally moved? The red candle swayed, and his face grew increasingly indifferent in the dim light. You saved me, I'll repay you, that's all. He took off his red robe and went out. Afterwards, he came to my room every night, but he only sat for an hour with his eyes closed before getting up and leaving. Women all over the world envy me. An ordinary woman, however, sat in glory because she met the Holy One. When I heard this, I just smiled. I have understood the purpose of Song Shishing appointing me as the queen, and he wants a name. It is a name of benevolence and righteousness, a name that the people of the world are willing to follow and support. A month later, I stopped him when he left. I will help you one last time, but I hope you can truly repay me once again. After my death, please bury me next to my parents. Song Shishing did not look back. I summoned his former deputy general, now the general of Xinhua, and he died with 2 cups of poisonous tea. I know this person is acting recklessly and recklessly. Song Shishing endured him for a long time, but he couldn't kill his old minister when he just ascended the throne. So, I avenged him and helped him. Before I died, I just thought, if I hadn't met Song Shishing, what would my life be like? Or, if I were more confident and powerful, what would it look like? But it's not important anymore. My life has come back once again. Returning to the age of 15, once again, in the bright spring light, I saw Song Shishing, who was on the verge of death, in a dim alley. My footsteps only paused, and then I quickly walked by. No turning back, no hesitation. But the heart was torn and painful. He said he wanted to marry me, which gave me love. He left me by his side, which made me daydream again. He forcibly appointed me as the queen, forcing me to linger on, and then mercilessly extinguished all my thoughts. That month, I often thought about what kind of existence I was in Song Shishing's mind. Is it a tool? From the day I saved him, he may have thought it over. If one day he became the emperor and appointed me as the queen, a commoner without salt, he would definitely receive praise from all over the world. For him as the new emperor, fame is the foundation for him to establish himself firmly in the world. My existence is just an insignificant stepping stone that he picked up casually. In this life, I don't want to have anything to do with him anymore. The tofu stall is placed at the intersection, and the neighbors are rushing to buy it. In a short while, I will close the stall and go home. By the time he passed through that alley again, Song Shishing was no longer there, only the remnants of his mottled blood on the ground. Was he rescued by his subordinates, Green Buds? My mother ran to the alley to pick me up, and I also walked quickly. Mom, I've sold out of tofu.
My mother didn't have the heart to answer, so she grabbed my hand and hurriedly returned home, mysteriously closing the door. Kinjun, my mother just went to see you. On the way, she saw a young man injured and dying, so she brought him back. She said she stuffed me with a bucket of money. Your father and I will take care of him. Go and get a doctor back quickly. The burden on my shoulder fell to the ground, and my voice trembled as I asked my mother, did you save it in the alley of the Sizu family? My mother nodded. What's the matter? Why is your face so ugly? My mother didn't have the heart to answer, so she grabbed my hand and hurriedly returned home, mysteriously closing the door. Kinjun, my mother just went to see you. On the way, she saw a young man injured and dying, so she brought him back. She said she stuffed me with a bucket of money. Your father and I will take care of him. Go and get a doctor back quickly. The burden on my shoulder fell to the ground, and my voice trembled as I asked my mother, did you save it in the alley of the Sizu family? My mother nodded. What's the matter? Why is your face so ugly? I hurriedly pushed open the bedroom door and saw Song Shishing lying unconscious in bed. What's going on? I stood by the bedside, quietly surveying Song Shishing's face. When I took care of him in the previous life, I often looked at him like this and marveled at how there could be such a beautiful person born in this world. Song Shishing was the most exquisite and beautiful person I had ever seen in my previous life with narrow poultry diseases, but after a lifetime, I have come to understand that a person's appearance and heart are not necessarily unified. My mind turned and I whispered, throw him out. Mei Nian was stunned. She suppressed her voice and threw it out, causing him to die. If we don't lose him, we'll die. My parents were obviously scared by my words. I turned around and explained to them, there is already a faint chaos outside the capital, and the world will soon become chaotic. He came from an unknown source like this. A man who is seriously injured will cause us to commit murder. That's for the girl. My father said. We worked together to pull Song Shishing up, one by one dragging his spleen outward. When we arrived at the door, Wei Shixing suddenly opened his eyes. His gaze met mine, and in an instant, a strong sense of killing erupted in his eyes. I mistakenly brought you back. But I don't want to save you now. I suppressed the lie and told him word by word. Song Shixing's face turned pale. I believe that if it weren't for his real weakness at this moment and being treated like a mob like this, he would likely have killed our entire family with a knife in his hand. I have money, but Song Shixing closed his eyes and didn't want to face the pressure of being slaughtered like a sheep. After the injury is healed, he can give you more compensation. No, I want money. But I won't trade my whole family's lives. Seeing that my oil and salt didn't enter, Song Shixing stared at me intently. His gorgeous robe swept a clean mark on the ground, and my mother ran to open the side door. The three of them were about to work together to throw him out. Suddenly, three men in black appeared outside the door, all covered in blood but holding long knives. One of them pointed a knife at us, while the other two nervously went to pick up Song Shak-sing, who was being carried by us in mid-air and about to be lost after a cup of tea. Song Shak-sing lay back on my bed, and this time there were 3 more people. The doctor came, left the medicine, and then left after taking the medicine. Song Shak-sing gave me an ingot of gold and told me in a very cold voice, "We will leave tomorrow. Please be calm during this period." I picked up the gold, turned around to leave, and stopped to look at him again. "Your life, 1 pill is not enough." Song Shak-sing was momentarily taken aback, and then showed a sarcastic smile, as if saying, "As a market woman like me, there are only yellow and white things in her eyes. The pattern is small, the eyelids are shallow. Is that enough?" Song Shak-sing threw his wallet to me in front of him. I took all his money, threw the empty money bag back to him, and reminded him to remember to leave tomorrow. "Wait!" Song Shak-sing stopped me. I didn't look back, but I stopped and waited for him to speak. "We need to eat." I opened the door and went out, cooking 4 bowls of noodles for them. Song Shak-sing ate them, and the scene of the past life came to my attention. Many nights in my previous life, I sent him the night shawl, and he ate quietly like this. We didn't speak, only I was filled with daydreams about the future. Suddenly, he looked at me and asked, "Is there an old gentleman surnamed Lang around here?" My heart jumped because this sentence was also asked by Song Shak-sing in the previous generation. What did I say at the time? I said I know Mr. Lang and often come to buy my tofu. The next day, Song Shak-sing asked me to take him to find Mr. Lang. Later, Lang King he became his military advisor, but I didn't see Mr. Lang when I was in the military. I have also inquired about him and heard that he has been helping Song Shak-sing lead the right army, guarding and assisting Song Shak-sing's left army.